often, or at least as often as we should. Many of us don't, and that is to fast. The question is, one, what is the purpose of fasting? And two, what's the right way to fast? This was an issue that was brought up before Jesus with his disciples, and they came to him. Let's go to Mark 2:18, and they asked him, why aren't your disciples fasting? They said John's disciples and the Pharisees were fasting, and they came and said to him, why does John's disciples and the disciples of the Pharisees fast, but your disciples do not? Look what Jesus' response is. He says, while the bridegroom is with them, the attendants of the bridegroom cannot fast. There's no need to fast. Here's why. So long as they have the bridegroom with them, they cannot fast. In other words, the bridegroom is there. Jesus is there. But the days will come when the bridegroom is taken away from them, and then they will fast in that day. So the point of fasting is because there is a distance, there is a break between that person and, in this case, Jesus. When Jesus is gone, then they'll fast. He's right there. So the point of fasting is to bring about proximity, to bring about closeness. It is, in essence, denying the physical to gain something in the spiritual. You put your face, your focus, your heart towards him. You humble yourself. You afflict your soul, as we see that David did in the Day of Atonement. To afflict your soul, to humble yourself, that is to not eat. There is something that you're depriving from yourself physically that you would gain spiritually. But the question is, one, how then, if I know what it's for, how then do I fast? Is there a right way to fast? Well, let me just say this, a couple of things. Do not try to fast for an hour or two. Don't fast by chance, by accident. It needs to be intentional. There is a purpose in fasting. When you fast, you are trying to gain proximity to Christ. So that has to be your attitude. A 4-hour fast, or I'll fast between 12 p.m. and 6 p.m., that's not really a moment of you depriving yourself, because oftentimes we can go that long, not even thinking about it, and hey, that was a fast. Well, no. Now, we know, just like we all know that when you fast, typically something happens where someone may all of a sudden offer you something to eat, or you might have all these different desires. This is you desiring him, and so you are denying the world for him. The fast has to matter. It absolutely has to matter. When we see the Bible, we don't see 4-hour fast or 6-hour fast. We see at least day-long fast. There are some people who can't take those fasts for medical reasons, so we won't hold them to that same standard. Are you having to fast from everything, including water? I'll let you determine that. You might need to have some water, especially in these hot summer months. But in terms of food, that's really where you're going to feel it. Fasting, and don't make sure that you go in and drink liquids to fill yourself up to get rid of the hunger pains. Don't go out and drink a lot of water just to be full of that. Don't go drink a lot of tea. Don't get things that have a lot of calories, such as shakes and Slurpees and smoothies. No, you might as well eat that. You are defeating the point. The point is not to satisfy you physically, because that's how we live normally. Instead, satisfy the Lord. Now, there's an attitude that you have to have. This is how you fast. So now let's go to Isaiah 53, and let's see kind of what's happening here, and that'll help us understand. He says, why have we fasted and do not see? This is Isaiah speaking, and he's telling the people, why ye have not seen? Why have we humbled ourselves and do not notice? Behold, on the day of your fast, you find your desire and drive hard all your workers. Speaking to the people whose fasts don't seem to be working. Now, when you fast, the goal of the fast to get something. Even though there might be a need for something, the goal is not to get something, the goal is to get someone. God knows exactly what you need even before you ask it, but the goal, the point is Lord, let me return to you. And I'm going to stick on that point in just a second. But he says, behold, you fast for contention and strife, and to strike with the wicked fist. Your ultimate motives are shown. You do not fast like you do today to make your voice heard on high. So again, when you fast, your voice is to be heard on high. How is that done? By proximity. You bringing yourself closer to him in fasting. Isn't a fast like this which I choose a day for a man to humble himself? You need to humble yourself in fasting. Is it for bowing one's head like a reed and for spreading out sackcloth and ashes as a bed? Will you call this a fast, even an acceptable day to the Lord? Is this not the fast which I choose to loosen the bonds of wickedness? This is important. To undo the bands of the yoke and to let the oppressed go free and to break every yoke. Is it not to divide your bread with the hungry and bring the homeless poor into the house when you see the naked to cover him and not to hide yourself from your own flesh? Then your light will break out like dawn and your recovery will be speedily spring forth and your righteousness will go before you. The glory of the Lord will be your guard. He's telling them how to fast, the attitude to fast, and don't oppress others in doing so. Have a mindset for even helping those in the meantime. Why? Because it's not about you. If there's ever a time that you can actually focus on helping someone else, it's actually doing it fast. And again, as Jesus said, don't cover yourself up to make sure that everyone knows that, hey, I'm fasting. Guys, I can't eat right now because I'm fasting. Well, why would you tell him what? Now you're making it known. The fact that people knew that the Pharisees and John's disciples were fasting, someone told someone. This is not something that we have to have our face all downtrodden and announce it. That's not the kind of fast that God's looking for. It's not a fast where you are trying to get recognition. You're trying to get Christ. You're trying to get close to the Lord. Now, look at this passage here. I think this is very important. This shows the attitude of how to fast. What should be on the mind and heart. He says, why then, this is Jeremiah 8:5, why then has this people, Jerusalem, turned away in continual apostasy? This word apostasy is from the Hebrew word shu, which means to turn or return. They have turned away, or some versions may use this word backsliding. It's only used of Israel, but the whole point is they have turned themselves away from the Lord. So if you are fasting and your heart is away from the Lord, maybe even unintentionally, you are fasting and you are on your computer all day, you're on your phone, you're watching TV, you're doing everything but focus on God. Is that really a fast? It says they turned away in continual apostasy. They hold fast to deceit. They refuse to return. I have listened and heard. They have spoken what is not right. No man repented of his wickedness, saying, what have I done? Everyone turned to his course like a horse charging into battle. You are fasting, and whatever the sin is, whatever the issues are, whatever things that are between you and God that are affront to God, you're not even attending to those things. You don't care about those things. You have not repented of those things. Remember, if there are those that will say repenting is not an important thing in terms of repenting of sin, it is. Sin is a big problem before God. If sin is not a problem for you, well, then you got a problem because it's a problem for God. So it shouldn't be a problem. It should bother you like it bothers God. So you have not repented of your sin. You have not you changed your heart or your mind away from the Lord. That's not a good fast. Some people fast because, well, I haven't done one in a while, no, I didn't get one out of the way, or the church is asking for a fast. No, your fast should be because there's something in you that you don't like, that you want to get away from, and you want to get close to him. That's why Jesus makes the point. When the bridegroom is away, then they'll fast. Why? Because I want to be closer. The disciples did a pretty good job of being on their best behavior when Christ was around. When he wasn't, then that's when trouble comes in. When we are focused on Christ, it's harder, not impossible, but it's harder to mess up. It's harder to sin if you're focusing on Christ. The closer you get to him, the further you get away from sin. The closer you get to sin, the further you get away from God. And so that's why James makes a statement that we should draw close to him, and he'll draw close or near to us. So when you fast, your whole intention is him. Your whole focus is him. Your whole mindset is to get closer to him. I don't care about food. I don't care about the things. I care about you. And in that way, as Isaiah says, your voice is now heard high. If there are some things that you need, well, God will take care of that. But that should be your point of focus in the fast. You are denying the food, forgetting about the physical, wanting to get the spiritual, even if it means, this is how you know that it is a true fast. Even if it means you don't get the very thing that you're fasting, that you want, the underlying thing that you want to be taken care of, that may have caused you to think about a fast. You got bills due, you got people that are angry with you, got all sorts of things that are happening. But in this fast, you'll find your true concern is going to be for Christ. even if he doesn't fix anything, you're still satisfied. When you leave that fast, if you are not satisfied with your closeness with Christ, you might want to consider that to be an unsuccessful fast. You might want to fast again. There's nothing wrong with it. And by the way, there is no limit as to how often you can fast, when you should fast. There's no right rule. We must fast on this day or that day in this manner. No, we just want to fast as often as we can to be closer to Him. When you find yourself accepting away, fast. Amen.
We got through because only like he said, don't let everybody know. But in that group, only the group knew about the fast, nobody else. So when we got finished with the fast, we talked about our progress on different things in our life that we seen transpire, and discipline was one of them. Was one for me. Have a discipline. Like the first day was real hard, but then as the days went by, it was easier to have self discipline. It was easier to stay away from things that I know will satisfy my flesh, but knowing I'm fasting and I'm sacrificing for God, I was like, you know what? I ain't gonna do it. I'm fasting for God to get closer and this, that, whatever the case. So it for me, it showed me a lot of discipline on how to have a lot of discipline and patience with things. So I learned something. I hope y'all learned something. Know that God love you. Know that I love you. And it's important to fast. That's a part of us as followers of Christ that we should be able to fast. It's one of the things, one unique things that we should be able to do. So y'all do your own study. Y'all do your own research on fasting. I did this year, early sometime this year. I studied and he was on point with everything. And there's some things like ouch. So I thank God for this video. Y'all look at the original video in the description. Y'all tell me about y'all experience about fasting, and y'all tell me how did y'all do when y'all fasted, and any testimonies share in the comment section. And Trader Boy be out.